Series entitled Perspective. As Isaiah, the prophet, helps us to understand who God is, who we are, and to see our world more clearly. And today we look specifically at the topic of darkness and light. Let's start first with darkness. Last week I had a moment of dealing with darkness, the partial or total absence of light. I overslept. Supposed to be up to play soccer at 5:30 a.m. in the morning at the YMCA in the gym, but I found myself awake at 5:27 a.m. And I'm usually pretty good, right? I have all my stuff at the front door so I can walk out the door without what? Disturbing everybody else in the house. So why was I dealing with darkness? Well, in the rush to get out of the house, I needed one item that I could not find at the front door: my sandals. I like to wear my sandals before I put my shoes on, right? I wear those to the gym, then I put my shoes on to play soccer. And it was dark, and I couldn't turn the light on. Well, why? You have a dog. Yeah, you turn the light on for the dog at 5:30 in the morning, everybody in your house is going to love you, correct? No, they won't. So I wandered around and stumbled around in the dark looking for my sandals. I never found my sandals. It was sad. What's it like to be in the dark and not to be able to turn the light on? Be able to see clearly where you're going, what you need to do. Well, Isaiah, the prophet, lived in a time where there was plenty of darkness and couldn't really turn the light on. Let's learn about the time of Isaiah. Isaiah chapter 8, verses 21 through 22. They will pass through the land, greatly distressed and hungry. And when they are hungry, they will be enraged and will speak contemptuously against their king and their God, and turn their faces upward. And they will look to earth, but behold, distress and darkness, the gloom of anguish, and they will be thrust into thick darkness. How dark is that darkness? From Isaiah chapter 8, verses 21 through 22. Well, it seems pretty dark by the language. The people are in pretty rough shape. John Oswalt in his Isaiah commentary on page 239 says this about that text: having looked upward and found no help, they looked downward and found the same. How can those who are in gloom and anguish like themselves help anyone else? Those who depend upon the earth for solutions to earth's problems only compound their darkness. Light for our darkness must come from outside of ourselves, if it is to come at all. Darkness can swallow up failing light, but it never can produce it. Think about that. They looked up, they looked down to try to find a way. And what did they find? Darkness. Lots and lots of darkness. So how dark does it get in Judah and Israel, the time that Isaiah is prophesying? Well, we get to learn a little bit about the king of Judah. His name's Ahaz. And we hear about the darkness in 2 Kings chapter 16, verses 1 through 4. In the 17th year of Pekah, the son of Remaliah, Ahaz, the son of Jotham, king of Judah, began to reign. Ahaz was 20 years old when he began to reign, and he reigned 16 years in Jerusalem. And he did not do what was right in the eyes of the Lord his God, as his father David had done. But he walked in the way of the kings of Israel. He even burned his son as an offering, according to the despicable practices of the nations whom the Lord drove out before the people of Israel. And he sacrificed and made offerings on high places and on the hills under every green tree. Darkness. Amos is living in darkness. And he's living in the ways that the people who lived in the land before lived. God had driven them out for a reason. There was darkness, such darkness. And we hear in 2 Kings 16, 1 through 4, a very specific darkness, child sacrifice to idols. In 2 Kings 17, 31, we hear more of this. The account of human sacrifice by the king of Edom. Then we hear about Ahaz's grandson, Manasseh, who burned his son in 2 Kings 21, 6. See, such practices were typically associated with the god Chemosh, the Moabite god, or Molech, the Phoenician god of human sacrifice. See, this is darkness. Darkness in the lives of the people. One note here is that God distinguishes himself, the God of Abraham distinguishes himself of Isaac and of Jacob. In Genesis chapter 22, when we see that moment in time where God asked for Abraham to trust him. When Abraham has his one and only son who he leads up the mountain to be a sacrifice. As Abraham goes and follows and trusts God to the top of the mountain, to the moment where Isaac is bound and on the wood, Abraham goes to sacrifice his son. And what does the God of Abraham say? Stop. Don't go any further. You trust me, Abraham. I will provide a sacrifice. And what did that moment show the people of God? That God was not the same. He would not desire sacrifice of children. No, he would be a God who would be for life and life forever. Now, Ahaz lived in darkness. But the darkness gets deeper as we look at 2 Kings 16:5. Then Rezin, the king of Syria, and Pekah, the king of Ramallah, king of Israel, came up to wage war on Jerusalem. And they besieged Ahaz, but could not conquer him. So Ahaz, a king living in darkness in the ways of the people before, not in the ways of God, finds himself where? In a dark place in his nation, because the north, right, as well as Syria, are coming to invade him. It's a dark time for the people. So what does Ahaz do in a dark, unstable time where there's threat of military campaign and destruction, where he's living in dark ways, in darkness? We hear his next move, which gets things even deeper. As we look in 2 Kings 16, 7 through 8, where Ahaz goes to a dark place for help. So Ahaz sent messengers to Tiglath-Pileser, king of Assyria, saying, I am your servant and your son. Come up and rescue me from the hand of the king of Syria and from the hand of the king of Israel who are attacking me. Ahaz also took the silver and gold that was found in the house of the Lord and in the treasures of the king's house and sent a present to the king of Assyria. Did you catch it? It's getting darker in here. I am your servant and your what? Ahaz said? Your son? Tiglath-Pileser, the king of Assyria. I'm your son? Oh my. Oh, it's getting darker in here, isn't it? That the king of Judah is what? Is pledging allegiance and sonship to the king of Assyria. Oh man, can it get any darker in here? Can it be any less light? Yes, it can. 2 Kings 16, 10 through 11. What would happen after Ahaz pledges allegiance to king, pledges allegiance to the king of Assyria? We hear that in 2 Kings 16, 10 through 11. When King Ahaz went to Damascus to meet Tiglath-Pileser, king of Assyria, he saw the altar that was in Damascus. And King Ahaz sent to Uriah the priest a model of the altar and its pattern, exact in all its details. And Uriah the priest built the altar in accordance with all that King Ahaz had sent from Damascus So Uriah the priest made it before King Ahaz arrived from Damascus. It's getting even darker in here, isn't it? You picked up what was happening there? That Ahaz went to Damascus to meet with who? Tiglath-Pileser, the king of Assyria. And what did he propose they do in the house of the Lord, in God's temple? But the exact measurements of the altar of the Assyrian gods in God's house. Darkness. How does it get that far down the road, right? I mean, how dark is it in the life of Ahaz? And if Ahaz's life is that dark and he's going as far as putting the altar, right? The altar of the Assyrians in the house of the Lord. Can anybody see? Can anybody see? Do they look up? Do they look down? Why? They can't see. It's all darkness. Because Ahaz thinks what? He thinks he's picking a winner. I mean, he does, right? He looks at Tiglath-Pileser, right? The mighty nation of Assyria. And he says, Assyria is who will protect us. Well, after Tiglath-Pileser, there'd be Sennacherib. Sennacherib would come to destroy and to ravage and kill. God would protect. There'd be Babylon. Babylon would destroy Assyria and bring about judgment of what they had done. Yeah, what would Babylon do to Judah? Destroy him and take him out. Darkness. The people were in darkness. And Genesis chapter 3 reminds us of that darkness that not only the people of God in the time of Isaiah knew, but a darkness that we know also. Complete darkness, not knowing light, as Adam and Eve rebelled against God. Only darkness, no perspective, and no way to see. Until what? God speaks. And that's where we come in the midst of what? Moment of darkness. And like Isaiah chapter 8, right, verses 21 and 22 said, darkness. As the northern kingdom is about to be demolished by Assyria, and the southern kingdom is well on its way also. But in the midst of great darkness, there's what? There's what? Light, right? There's light in the midst of darkness, right? Darkness is the place where there is no light, but light can dispel darkness. And Isaiah's words today bring clarity and light, dispelling the darkness. And it's surprising. It's surprising that Isaiah would have a message for this people. Why? Because who's he speaking to? Ahaz. Isaiah has a message in the time of Ahaz. And we saw how dark his world is. What would God have to say in the time of Ahaz? Well, we're surprised. Isaiah 9:1. But there will be no gloom for her who was in anguish. What? No gloom? In the former times he brought into contempt the land of Zebulun and the land of Naphtali. But in the latter time he has made glorious the way of the sea, the land beyond the Jordan, Galilee of the nations. Well, what's being said here? The place that is in great darkness, right? Northern kingdom, getting ready to be knocked out by Assyria. There's going to be what? No gloom. No gloom? No gloom. And not only that, but what? There is going to be great light in that place. A time is coming. And notice when this is being said, is it when a time is about to come of great light? Or is it being said in the time of great darkness? the time of great darkness. Isaiah is proclaiming that there will be light. But not just that. What does he say in Isaiah chapter 9, verses 2 through 4? The people who walked in darkness have seen a great light. That means what? Light is showing up. Those who dwelt in the land of deep darkness, on them light has shone. Light from what? The outside. You have multiplied the nation. You have increased its joy. They rejoice before you as with joy of the harvest, and they are glad when they divide the spoil. What does that sound like? They're on the winning team. What? A place in deep darkness that's no promise of hope? Isaiah says, no, you will be on the winning team. There will be light again. Not only that, but verse 4, for the yoke of his burden and the staff for his shoulder, the rod of his oppressor, you have broken as on the day of Midian. Right? That's a big day, isn't it? It's your favorite day in the church, isn't it? The day of Midian. You know it. You know it. You dream about the day of Midian. It's like your top 10, right? What's the day of Midian? What do you see on the screen? People at a river drinking like dogs. I'm going to say a word named Gideon, right? Judges chapter 7. As God did what? Midian was going to come with 120,000, and Gideon had 32,000, and God said what? Send 20,000 home. And then God looked at the group of 10,000, and he goes, you know what? Still too many. Have them drink by the water. And how many did he keep? Judges 7, verses 7 through 8. And the Lord said to Gideon, with the 300 men who lapped, I will save you, and will give the Midianites into your hand. And let all the others go, every man to his home, so that the people took provisions in their hands and their trumpets. And he sent all the rest of Israel, every man to his tent, but retained the 300 men. And the camp of Midian was below him in the valley. The day of what? The day of Midian. See, God is going to bring light and life and rescue in that kind of way. Because how do you beat 120,000 with 300 men? The Lord. The Lord. Isaiah spoke of great light. The day of Midian. Not only that, but a child. Isaiah 9, 6 through 7. For to us a child is born, to us a son is given. So the government shall be on his shoulders, and his name shall be called Wonderful Counselor, Mighty God, Everlasting Father, Prince of Peace. Of the increase of his government and of the peace there will be no end. On the throne of David and over his kingdom, to establish it and to uphold it with justice and righteousness from this time forth and forevermore. The zeal of the Lord of hosts will do this. So who does Isaiah speak this to? Right? Ahaz, the son of who? Tiglath-Pileser. Right? The one who didn't cherish his son, but the one who burned his son. What does Isaiah promise? A son. A child, not just a child, but what? The child. The child that 750 years later would show up where? In Galilee. Kind of cool, right? Isaiah talked about it. And what will we see in Galilee? Well, in Mark chapter 1 in Capernaum, we see in the synagogue great darkness of demon possession. And what happens? Healing, freedom, and life. In Mark chapter 1, Simon's mother-in-law is not feeling too good, right? She's sick, and what does Jesus do? Bring complete healing. What does he do throughout Galilee? Casting out demons and healing those around him. Light. God brings light. The light that Isaiah spoke of. A light that lights our path, and not just words, right? But a person who shows us what it means to be alive, what it means to know God and love God. Not only that, but a person who is the Word, who speaks into our lives and lights the way. And we hear in Psalm 119, verse 105, this reality. Your word is a lamp to my feet and a light to my path. Jesus, the one who died on the cross for the darkness. He experienced all the darkness so that we might have what? Light. That through the waters of baptism, our eyes, our hearts, and our minds might be open to what? Light. As darkness goes in the tomb and the light of Christ leads us and guides us. Listen to him. The words of Isaiah that promise life, but even more so, who? Jesus. The fulfillment and the one who guides our steps today. Light. Darkness. Jesus. The light of the world. Amen.